So
It is
welcome.
recording.
Yeah. So welcome to module 5, which is on, we are going to discuss about governance factor in ESG initiative, specifically in case of sustainability. Now, what we are going to cover today is the basis of governance, and we will see a lot of case study as everybody has prepared. So at least 2 or 3 case study we are going to listen in. Once you will get an idea, because governance you have to always understand from the point of view that how much ethics should be adopted in business so business doesn't stall, still remain profitable and sustainable. Because if you remember our discussion on governance as well as in ESG, sustainability specifically as a concept, you must remember that it is a combination of 3 different circles. You remember that 3 circle triple bottom line we talked about? And that all 3 circle is 3 P's. First P is people, second P is profit, and third P is, anybody remember?
Planet.
Planet, absolutely. So these 3 P is in essence creates sustainable business and sustainable development in a business. Now, as you remember, if the people and profit is there, what kind of company we are creating? If people and profit is only there and planet I'm not considering, what kind of company I'm creating? I'm creating a company which is profitable or viable, right? But is it sustainable? Answer will be no. If there is a profit and planet coming together, if company is looking for only for profit and planet and ignoring the people, what kind of company he is creating? If you remember the 3 circles, the combination of these two provides a kind of company which is viable or possible. So one is the viability side when it comes from planet and profit and you are ignoring people. One is when people and profit is there, but planet you are ignoring. In that case, you have a company which is commercially viable, right? But if all 3 comes together, then only sustainable businesses gets created. And here, what I'm trying to illustrate too, that people is a key part in planet and profit being together. Now, profit also has to be there in order to company to sustain in long term. If you only have people and planet and there is no profit in that company, do you think that company will survive for long? It won't. It will die off immediately because there is no money to run that company. People need money, right, to operate. Planet also requires protection. And that is why combination of these 3 is required to create a sustainable business. And that is why the statement which I made, that ethics is required, but at what should be the dose of ethics need to be seen. And this chapter, specifically governance factor in ESG, covers that. Okay? Rajni, you must have seen throughout your career that you work with a government organizer, right? Profit might not be a major mandate for you, but can you imagine IRCTC without profit? Can you imagine that company which doesn't have any profit at all? Will it not become a ministry of a government of India?
Yes, you are supposed to make profit.
Supposed to make profit. That's why this was an entity to be created. Created by government.
That is why they were created.
This is exactly the point I'm referring to, that you have to have all 3 sides covered, even though the company purpose is to support people. Means as a governance, that was a part of governance, right? You are not only selling tickets and managing the train wagon, but also you are enabling population to easily access railway as a service, right? Your job was enablement, but still profit remain at the center, because if you don't have profit, government cannot keep you funding for a long, right? And that is why new concept in governance has come, that every ministry themselves need to be sustainable, right? They do not say profitable. They do not say, it should be for people only, right? They do not prepare for employee. They say it should be sustainable. So all 3 elements in that 3P is justified. And this chapter has to be seen with that glass. Corporate governance specifically talks about who is accountable, what kind of accountability company, board of director, management, and people should have, along with the alignment with their future vision. And this formalizes the corporate governance framework with shareholder engagement and alignment. So the activity which you conduct in governance is all about how you engage your shareholder and how you make sure that everybody's vision is aligned. Specifically, the principal and agency relationships should be aligned. Who is agency? Management in any company or organization is agency who execute on behalf of the principal. Who is principal? A stakeholder is principal, whose vision could be completely different than the management. Management का end game क्या है? मेरे को salary चाहिए मेरी. I need my annual salary. Second, I need end of the day bonus, and I need a company which can sustain me for at least till the time I retire. इतना ही एक्सपेक्टेशन है ना. If he is a CEO of that company, he will have expectation कि every quarter whatever target I have fixed is achieved. Whatever he has fixed as a target is achieved, and maybe few more, so that board will appreciate their effort, and eventually he will get the percentage of profit at the end of the day. So this alignment of agency versus principal. However, principal, which is board of director, might have a different vision altogether. Like in case of IRCTC, we talked about, they exist for the purpose of enabling and providing a comfort to customer and making sure that government keep earning some extra bucks out of the railway, which is a complete non-governmental, it's a complete service organization. So that is the purpose of IRCTC, and which is their board of director vision. That alignment of board of director vision in IRCTC and the CEO of it is the major problem in which needs to be handled with the governance. That's why when Modi ji came, he started talking about good governance and less government, more governance, right? That was the statement he made. This is what this chapter covers in essence. Of course, we are talking about following 8 different learning outcomes, so starting with corporate governance, accountability, and alignment. Alignment, I have already explained. What we will be learning is pecking order. So you need to understand the sequence of reporting structure in this mechanism where governance need to be deployed so that there is an effective outcome of that process. Second, formalize governance, corporate governance framework. So we will consider across world major countries which are operating with good governance. We will refer their governance style. What is difference between their governance, Indian governance, etc. The framework we are talking about, specifically in case of India, it is Indian Company Act 2013, which has been recently updated. So compare that with other governance structure like SOX, we say Sarbanes-Oxley, right? Dodd and Frank rule came later on after. Dodd and Frank rule came after, fiasco of MBO or ABO, which is asset-backed obligations. MBO is mortgage-backed, right? Obligations, which
Mortgage-backed security.
Security, MBS, that then it will be.
Yeah, and CDOs.
Those kind of stuff actually in 2007-8 created a financial crisis. After that, Dodd and Frank rule came, which also became part of the governance. So all that we will consider along with UK, Australia, Japan governance structure, and try to understand how in this structure a shareholder can align themselves with the management point of view or the organization point of view, and how we should be engaging such shareholder and a stakeholder. Then we will go inside the characteristics of effective governance, the board structure, combination of board structure, the remuneration style, etc. We will be also looking into effective corporate governance, transparency, capital allocation, and business ethics. Along with, we will be covering corporate governance differences, specific differences in major world market and how they differentiate themselves and where we should be learning from. Right? There is no ideal condition, by the way. I have made it very clear in last session as well, that governance is always a fluid arrangement. It learns with the cultural aspect of a business, as well as that jurisdiction where that business operates. Yeah. So corporate governance is always a evolving subject. It cannot be fixed and casted in documentation like Indian Company Act. Every day there is new challenge comes. And one of those good example is Gensol and Blue Smart, which we discussed last session. We are publishing today a very big article on the same. You will be listening, you will be seeing that we are uncovering a completely new aspect of it. And that aspect is the consultants like you and me sometime, right? Who are advising investors, specifically green investor in this case, are making mistakes and they have never been accountable, right? And that portion we are highlighting in our article, which will be published today. Now, last but not least, we will be also looking into how any investor, be it retail or institutional, make a decision based on the governance data which is made available to them. And that's why any company who really want to raise good fund, grow faster, need to be conscious about governance factor. Otherwise, anyway, you are creating a disaster, not a company. Yeah, even though in any field you are doing it. And secondly, you will make sure that capital which is deployed by a retail investor can go to zero at any point in time. Specifically in case of Gensol, we have seen 88% capital erosion, right? A 4,300 worth capital company has, in 3 days, it has become 500 crores company. So approximately 88% capital erosion has happened. Now, corporate governance, we will be covering, of course, the framework, the tenets, which is a spirit, and that spirit we are going to learn through case study, which I hope everybody is ready with. We'll be discussing that today, and we will be also looking into mechanics of it, which is board structure and committee. Most of you are already either being chairmen or board of directors, so you know most of the part, but still it is my duty to cover end to end, and we will be doing it. What we started with last time is that pecking order, the chain and circle of accountability. And this becomes the first understanding which we have to establish, that person, be it any level he is operating in the pyramid of organization, everybody has a different kind of responsibility, and that responsibility he should carry properly. Generally, in organization setup, we stop ourselves to corporate board. What we miss is the fund manager, asset owner, and beneficiary. And Gensol is one of those examples that asset owner, fund manager, and beneficiary all has suffered instead of the corporate. Of course, even board, one person died, right? One of the good gentlemen, where even Rajnish is there in that group, has been informed that he died while boarding the aeroplane. Now, if you want to understand corporate governance, of course, you have to start with the governance as a process. Always remember, it is not an end document which we are talking, but rather the process and how you are building that process matters in corporate governance, right? Any good governance matters in a company because it leads to a strong business performance and prosperity of the company, not stalling, which is a normal thinking process, right? If I will put a lot of policy, procedure, a lot of guidelines, not taking high risk items on the agenda in board meetings, my company will stall, right? But actually it is opposite. If you really have these kind of processes, even though you in that case take high risk, your board members and yourself will be always protected. And that's the point, that at its core, the role of board member, if you see their role and the processes which they set, it involves the individual in the boardroom and their interaction, which creates the prosperity. Tell me a board of director who doesn't want their company to grow fast. You will never find, but always management see them that they are not allowing me to take flexibility and operate the way I want. And that tussle is called tussle between principal and agency, which corporate governance resolves, right? But again, it required some, determination and mettle at the part of board to convince the management to accept it. And here the investment perspective also plays a role. And that is why PFC, IRIDA was a critical factor in the case of Gensol, rather than they were just outside people who has given a loan, right? So they have not played their role as well, which they were supposed to. And here two core element, which I will be repeating throughout the session, will be accountability and alignment. And there is no way corporate governance has no challenges, but the solution lies in this agency problem, which we will address through the processes which board sets. And how they do that? by putting a separation of duties and creating a flow of accountability. Now, formalized governance framework requires you to understand the evolution of corporate governance framework over a period of time, right? They initially started even in 16th century, when first time somebody has gone in market and floated, East India Company shares. That time also there was a requirement of corporate governance, which British government failed miserably, and that's why they lost not only the territory but also lost the Commonwealth wealth territory all across the world just by losing one country. Right? India got independent, and rest of other world knows what was the story. Of course, the story also carries a lot of dent they have taken in World War I and II, but if they could have still generated enough money from India, which they were doing, ripping India left, right, and center, right? So ethics they have definitely not managed at the point of time on their subjects. Yeah, we were subject at that point in time. And that ethics which they didn't carry made East India Company go to dust, right? Otherwise, it was one of the most valuable company of the world. So such kind of a story also we will be learning in this area. Why? Because that will give us a clarity that how this whole corporate governance as a concept came into play. Everything starts, by the way, of the case of Cadbury case. How many of you have heard Cadbury case or Cadbury committee recommendations? That was the first, by the way, corporate governance scripture was written, correct? Which was written in United Kingdom. And we will be discussing that in the next session when we will be talking about in 1992, United Kingdom has constituted a committee which is called Cadbury Committee. And this was the first formal corporate governance code. Whatever they have given as a recommendation became the corporate governance code over a period of time. They recommended one thing, even in the beginning of the era, which is 1992. They said every company should have an audit committee, right? Why they required an audit committee? So that somebody, even they are part of the board, focuses only on the financial operation of the company and get or become accountable for the same. Board of directors are accountable. Even management is accountable for what is happening in the company and getting recorded properly. But they suggested that there has to be an overseeing body apart from board of board of directors and management, who should have more powers than board of directors, specifically in the matter of financial reporting and making sure whatever goes in that document has a sacrosanct capacity, right? And this risk oversight was essential, which was given by the Cadbury Code. That was the first. Of course, Cadbury Code has also taken one core fundamental apart from having an audit committee was either comply or explain scenarios. So they have fixed that every audit committee should ask this question of if you have complied, show me the compliances throughout the year. And this is a responsibility of management to showcase to audit committee, not audit committee responsibility. Or get the explanation from the auditor as well as from the management. And that's why they are more powerful in this case, specifically in the case of financial reporting and maintaining sacrosanct of the business operation. Clear? Which some people think is a challenge, right? Because look, my duty as a CEO is to give the growth to the company. And my duty is till today, it is similarly perceived, even though we are 33 years down the line, still CEO has this mentality that audit committee is trying to curtail our wings or cut our wings, giving me not enough flexibility to operate beyond the rule book of the company. But whoever has done that has seen the result, which we have seen in form of, scams or board scams or disaster in financial market. And this is why this topic is always being in making, treat like that. You should always learn like law or legal learning. You cannot do it sitting in your classrooms. You have to learn it through the ongoing cases, right? Cases are important for jurisprudence degree, JD degree, if you want to take in UK, US, you need to understand all the cases available in all three tiers of the code. Similarly, in corporate governance, learning cannot happen by one book, be it Indian Company Act, be it CFA book, be it SCR book, but it has to be based on the current scandals. And that's why today's session was very important. And first, I believe Dr. Bhaskar is going and talking about it. And Dr. Bhaskar, if you can start your camera, that will be the ideal. So it goes on record that this is your version of discussion rather than mine. And, and this becomes a public, it goes in public forum as well. So Bhaskar ji,
Sure.
you share your screen. You can start your camera and let's listen in his case. I think you have done a very interesting.
Royal Hold, which
Yeah.
is the ideal case of this good governance part of it.
Wonderful. So let me remove my screen. You can start your screen if you want. Otherwise, you can speak it.
I'll start sharing.